So this is a healing of a client of mine who I hadn't seen for a few weeks because she went home on a holiday to see her family, and she came back and complained of having uncontrollable, involuntary shaking. For 4 days, she's just been shaking and shaking, trembling uncontrollably, and couldn't sleep, and headaches, and nervousness, and fears coming up, and all kinds of nightmares, etc., etc. So I asked her, what had happened, with your family going back home, and she said that I had known, about the abusive father that she had. I'd seen that in her aura many times. In fact, um, I knew that she had like a slouching uh, curvature of the spine. Her shoulders would hunch over, very poor posture, and I had seen in past healings that it was due to constantly being berated and put down, by her abusive father. You're not good enough. Why didn't you do this? You didn't clean up. You're not, you don't care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever he could think about to sort of make her feel inferior. And so she, gradually would just hang her head. It's like when somebody's hitting you, like if you whip a horse, for example, eventually they're just going to sort of hang their head and turn the other way and become, sort of meek and sheepish. All the rebellion has sort of been beaten out of them, so to speak. So basically, what happened when I started doing the healing, I'm trying to obviously figure out why she's shaking, you know, uncontrollably. Um, so what I basically saw the whole episode with her and her father over the holidays when she visited, and she told me a little bit about it. There was a big blow up. She couldn't believe that she actually, stood up to her father, but until I actually went in and tuned into her aura, I was able to see, as I was doing the healing, see the whole scene from sort of inside her aura, what happened. And so he started, what he normally does, berating her. You didn't clean up after dinner. Why'd you say that? You're wrong. You always think that, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever he could say to make her feel bad. And we've been doing a lot of healing work over the months and giving her more power and more confidence and teaching her about her emotional body and it's amazing what can happen when you live away from home, and of course you work with a healer like myself or somebody else or a therapist, etc., and you get a new sense of your dignity and your worth and your competence, your intelligence. All of a sudden the world treats you differently, and you're like, you go back home and like, you know who you talk, don't talk to me like that. I'm not the little girl, who used to live here. So, but initially, when she went back home, she fell into the normal pattern of just taking his abuse and hanging her head and slouching over. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and I saw this when I was doing the healing, from the base of her spine, shot up this, about Kundalini, a Kundalini opening, where the energy shoots up the spine. Well, that's what happened here. In an instant, the energy shot from the bottom of the spine all the way up. You know what it's like? I was thinking of this, when you go to a carnival and you take the big hammer and you hit it down on the lever, and the puck goes hopefully goes all the way up and hits the bell. Well, that's kind of how it looked. It was like, wow, and it went all the way up, and her spine completely straightened, bridled up, from slouching, it just completely straightened, and was, upright and strong like a warrior. And then what I saw, basically, this it just kept getting more and more intense. She started. I basically got an image that the vertebrae in the upper back, her body wisdom gave me this image that each vertebrae in the upper back became like a battleship cannon. And along with the words that she was saying, don't treat me like that. I'm not a little girl anymore. You can't talk to me like that. I didn't do anything wrong. She started firing these psychic cannonballs, both from her tongue, her words, but also psychically. Each vertebrae was like a mini battleship cannon, firing, firing, firing. I witnessed this all. Um, and the father backed down. He got very sheepish and meek and couldn't. He was shocked. He was totally shocked, and he just basically got quiet and walked out of the room. So she had some moment of satisfaction and victory there, but shortly after that, she started shaking, you know, incredibly. And as I said, it's been 4 days, and she came to me. Um, so basically, the concept here is that the physical and the emotional body are a composition of all the traumas that have ever happened to it. You know, in in this lifetime, and if you believe in past lifetimes, from all the lifetimes you've ever had, there's a certain ceiling. And they talk about a ceiling, a barrier, a limit. It's a certain, limit to your physical and your emotional body. They have really, because of the traumas you've had, there's limitations on what you can feel, and also limitations on, whether you can run now or whether you can stretch, et cetera, et cetera, on your physical body, based on different injuries you've had, physical injuries, car crashes, or whatever, and emotional boundaries based on, you know, heartache, heartbreak, um, you know, abuse, psychic abuse, emotional abuse. Your aura shuts down. So in an instant like this, she had a volcanic explosion that just went completely way, way, way beyond those physical and emotional limitations of her auric body. So, this concept of recoil, when you go past your body's protective boundaries, you go past that, you're shocking your nervous system, and there's a recoil. Just like when you fire a cannon, or you fire a rifle, you go backwards. That's a recoil. Well, she fired psychic cannonballs, and she completely recoiled. Her nervous system recoiled, and it's been 4 days. So this happens in so many areas. This concept of going past your body's limitations, and then your body flipping out. It happens, all the time. So basically, this healing, I was able to see all the different vibrations going on, and the shaking and the trembling, and I think I remember, like, my psychic hands became like, 500 fingers, and touching each one of those shaking and trembling vibrations, and holding them with my 500 psychic fingers, I think, something like that, and getting in touch with where each vibration was coming from, and then slowly talking to it, talking to the vibrations, and simultaneously seeing the whole argument, and all the whole experience from inside her aura. So as I was holding each shaking, each vibration strand, and releasing the memory of that particular argument, slowly but surely the vibration slowed, and then finally we were able to erase the whole argument. and her aura finally calmed down. So anyway, this is just an example of you know, what happens in a situation where you break out of your, you know, your normal routine and go to a new level and have a major breakthrough. But as this healing shows, you know, there's ramifications for breaking through, you know, the restraints on your physical and emotional body. But thankfully, um, there's, you know, healing approaches that can you know, help you and calm it down, and then you have a new relationship. You know, in her case, she's got now a new relationship, or an evolved relationship with the bullying, abusive father. So it's definitely a victory, and now she's calmer. She's gotten some integration. So you know, it's pretty beautiful for her to have stood her ground like that. So.